Hi everybody, I'm trying to make a short video today. It is June 22nd, and I'm going to try to explain as simply as I can the the um, the world we live in, so that I have a better understanding of why things are happening the way they are. And I know I've touched on this before, and I know a lot of you guys. It's not that I'm preaching to the choir, but most of the stuff is pretty well known information, and but you'll understand there's the bigger picture to it. So that's kind of what I'm going to try to touch on is if you understand the basic physics of these planets or these worlds that we live in, that's kind of what, as you know, a lot of scientists over the years have been just trying to basically learn how the mechanics of these physical worlds that we live in, how they function, and basically try to understand it. That's so we always try to find out what they've discovered and things like that, and so as a general rule, everybody understands the fact that everything is energy. It isn't like it's like molecules or atoms vibrating at certain frequencies. So in a sense, the softer something is, uh, the higher vibration, and then the more solid something is, uh, like stones or steel or something. It's like really compacted molecules, so they hardly vibrate at all. So, but when you know that, when you understand that, you realize that, for instance, a hammer, it's got wood and it's got steel, but it's not it's not really a solid object. Sort of, it's just it's compacted molecules vibrating at a certain rate, and so it's like it has frequencies. So it seems solid in this world because that's the world that we sort of inhabit and we live in. But in reality, everything is, when you break it down, everything is just energy. So anyway, I don't want to go too much into that because what I'm trying to describe to you guys is what we're living in is uh, basically a physical hologram. So it's very similar to, for instance, that's why Star Trek is kind of interesting because it was always kind of a soft disclosure. It kind of explained a bunch of stuff that we can kind of start to relate to more now. But if you're a pure energy being and you wanted to have a physical experience, you create, which we have billions and billions and billions of years ago, these physical holodecks, and you want to have an adventure. So as you can imagine, that's why it's kind of good. You gotta kind of wrap your head around this, and this is going to sound sci-fi, but in a sense, what we're doing is we're all coming into this holodeck, but some of us have predetermined what we wanted to experience. It's like, okay, we want to do this, we want to do that. We're not exactly sure when, but just sometime in my experience here, I want to, try skydiving or whatever. It could be just some sort of adventure that you want to be on. But what makes it kind of complicated is when you go into these holodecks like we live in right now, these physical matrices. They're actually generated by our own power because we're all energetic beings and we create our own realities. And you also realize that when you come into these holodecks, it's it's a collective experience. So it's it won't necessarily play out exactly the way you want it because everybody's will is changing the storyline. as the story unfolds, as your adventure. It's like your adventure. Um, so this is quite normal. Normally, we're even more aware of this, but also when we to make these adventures more interesting is when we come into these holodecks, we wipe our minds of, let's say, basic memory. In a sense, how we do that is we the, the majority of our essence is still outside these holodecks, and we only use, let's say, 25% of our soul or our awareness to have an adventure. So that's why you'll hear, for instance, a lot of people talk about their higher self. Well, in a sense, you're still connected, but you've chosen that part of you, that sort of piece of you, to not have memory, to make the adventure more real and more exciting. In other words, you don't know the outcome. And then you go into these holodecks and you have an experience with everybody, and everybody is steering the narrative. So normally, especially because this one is set up as a free will matrix and also a polarity matrix, which is like, it's almost like anything goes. You got, within reason. Normally these are kind of self-regulated by us, and they're watched by off. I know this is going to sound crazy and everything, but we're sort of monitored by off-world entities that are more involved in building these holodecks. They've generated them, and they kind of watch out to make sure that these adventures don't get too crazy or they affect other holodecks next to them, that type of thing. Now you got to remember, okay, with this premise, if we're living in this holodeck and it's run by our own energy, and the storylines are based on a collective consciousness, we make our own adventures. And that's why, as a general rule, whether it's the 100 Monkeys effect or not, but we all sort of come up with ideas and we'll go, that's okay, let's do that. Let's play that out. Let's make flying machines. Let's make this. Let's do that. Hey, I know. Let's whatever. Let's make different kinds of housing. Let's whatever. So we, whether it's a fashion or whatever, but we kind of affect each other and sort of give each other inspiration and that type of thing. So now that's how they're run normally, but as you know, that's why this whole thing is out of whack, is these holodecks got hacked by, they're still energetic beings just like we are, but negative energies, sort of, and they're using these holodecks to generate a world for themselves, and they're sort of feeding off of our energy. So they're creating the narrative so that so it's not what we want, it's what they want, and they're basically getting our energy that we're using to create these holodecks, and they're feeding off of that, and then they're creating more holodecks that were going to be more towards what they wanted to do. So they even fracture us again. They use our essence and they try to basically split up our essence again and try to double down and whatever. It gets complicated what has happened to us, but the situation we're in right now is, because in reality what's really going on is it's almost like a battle of holodecks. It's not only a control, they're trying to take control of the holodecks. And you gotta remember, these are like, it's a holodeck within a holodeck within a holodeck. Like, they're all sort of physical matrices that we're creating. And I mean, there's obviously zillions and zillions of us doing this constantly. But Generally, as a general rule, these worlds are set up so that we can have physical experiences for soul growth. So that's kind of, in a sense, what people are picking up on when they go, well, I'm here for spiritual lessons and stuff. That's true, because in reality, it's not about what physically you can accomplish here. It's more about how you can grow spiritually. So that's kind of the spiritual aspect of it. So these are hacked, and as you can imagine, if you can take control of our will, or not necessarily our will, but our minds, because our minds are, in a sense, creating the storyline. And that's why it's not a coincidence that our controllers have gotten a hold of, the media, lots of different ways of controlling the way we see and perceive life. And they've basically taken control of that. And they also realize they can get the most out of us by making us fearful. Because then we can react really quickly, and the energy level they get from that on a meter is higher than, obviously, if you're calm. It's like it doesn't reach at all in a meter. But you scare somebody, it's like it's off the charts. So they realize, obviously, they know the nature of these physical avatars. Because, you got to remember that too, is we're living in a holodeck, which is a physical holodeck. But in order for our pure energy souls to inhabit these worlds, we have to go inside a physical avatar to play out these things. We're still connected to our higher energy, and I don't want to expand it more, but obviously we're all just fractals of source too, which is the energy of everything. It's kind of splintered up into smaller particles. I'm trying to simplify this, it's difficult. But anyway, so the situation we're in right now is a bunch of us have come back, and that's another thing, is it sort of has to do with time too. But when you step outside the holodecks, there's no time. That's the best way for me to explain it. So, but when you're in the game, when you're in the holodeck, that's when you're affected by time. So, a bunch of us that have been watching the situation and know from the outside the holodeck have realized that we have to fix this, because it's become obviously a nightmare. This is way, way, way out of control. So we've been figuring it out, and what we figured out is how to help fix these holodecks from the outside as well as from the inside. And that's why I've touched on it on videos before, is, as you can imagine, if you can change this holodeck, you have to come into the game, into the actual holodeck, and fix it from the inside. So you got to fix it from the inside as well as fix it from the outside. So people like me it's an absolute physical incarnation. I'm in the game. I came in here along with hundreds of thousands of others to help fix it from the inside. And that's why when I have contact, I'm sort of talking to the outside contact, which is working on freeing this world, this holodeck. So I sort of get updates, but like I said, I'm not in control of this freedom operation. I'm just a part of it. And that's why I remember they were telling me years ago that they just said, I'm here to stay grounded. So in other words, the only way they can kind of pull this off is inside the matrix. You have to have a power source there, and then they can work from the outside as well as from the inside to correct this. And the basic gist of what's been going on is we're trying to get rid of these negative entities that have taken control of this world. And what we translated in is our physical world. Like, for instance, they're in government, they're in, you know, our judicial system, they're into the military, whatever. They're like when you understand it, even from an entity, it's from a physical human being inside this holodeck, you start realizing this is really out of whack. We're being controlled. If you wake up to that, but they keep us trying to steer it to their narrative constantly, and a lot of people have been waking up to that. But I'm just saying, us that are kind of more aware of it, even when we came in here, went, wow, this is really, really messed up. We're here to help fix this. So it's working. I'm just finally I'm to a point where I think I can kind of explain how it's being done in this world, so to make sense. I mean, you'll all understand this better once we shift, and that's what what you'll hear, that we're shifting. What it is we're realizing, okay, we've got to clean this thing out as best we can, and then we're going to phase this holodeck into a higher vibration, which people are calling 5D, which is, that's where we're going. We're taking it. We first of all have to try to clean it all out. Now, the problem is the people that are here, they bought into this reality, and they're the ones that are sort of keep this storyline going, is because the more they keep buying into the old narrative, the more that manifests itself. That's how you make these holodecks work. You physically make things happen by your consciousness, whether you realize it or not. People are manifesting things. Us that know that, that's why when we always think, okay, well, think positive. It's true, because in a sense, what you're doing is you're working from outside the holodeck as well as inside, and you're creating a positive, because like I said, only inside these matrices it's where time exists. So we make a positive timeline when you're in here. And anyway, hopefully this makes sense to some of you guys. I know it's pretty sci-fi, but I'm trying to describe it the best way I can. So kind of what we're living through is holodeck wars. That's kind of what it is. And there's some multi-layers too. So, but it's working, and we're almost ready to bust out, had to change into a higher frequency by shaking off this old control system. So it's really working. We're getting really, really close to the end, and I'm just trying to explain the mechanics of it. It's kind of out there, I know, but hopefully this will make sense to somebody. Okay, that's my little video for this week. I'll talk to you guys probably next week. Okay, bye.